Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel. I was walking through the orchard about 2 weeks ago and taking stock of the trees and looking at them. And in the past I've kind of just let them grow wild and do their thing. But I've kind of decided that I don't really like the shape that the trees are growing in, so I decided to finally just do a real hard pruning to get these things into the proper shape so that they grow for me nicely in the future. This is our Macoun apple. It's a dwarf. It's currently about 6 feet tall. It's a couple years old now. I bought this as about a 12 or 16-inch tall bare root whip a few years back. This is in some pretty dire need of some pruning. I want to get this to a open center kind of shape right now. Right now it does have a very strong central leader that runs up the middle. But I want to get this more into a wine glass kind of shape. So I'm going to set you guys up on the tripod and we'll go to town and we'll trim this thing up. Okay, I want to have about 3 scaffold branches in here, and like I was saying, this right now is a very, very vertical shoot, which the tree is going to try and direct all of its energy up this vertical shoot. So this is absolutely the first thing I want to get rid of. So get rid of that guy right there. Next, I don't want any branches coming back to the inside of the tree at all. They'll all start crisscrossing and injure themselves, so we'll take these off right there. This one's kind of pointing at the ground. I don't want that. We want branches to face upwards. Let's get rid of these ones. Okay, so now we have a pretty good shape going on. These little branches right here, I'm just going to get rid of these this year. This one is kind of weak, and I don't really like it. So we'll go ahead and get rid of this guy. All right, now I know this has been some pretty hefty pruning so far, but I have one last thing to do, which is going to be to tip all of these 3 leftover scaffold branches that I have. And the trick that I want is I want this tree to continue to get wider as it gets older. So I'm going to trim at an outward facing bud to direct the growth out this way, hopefully. Same with this one. We'll pick a nice outward facing bud, say here. And this one, I can even come up onto this one if I have to. Oh, here's a, well, this one I'm having a hard time choosing. That one's facing there. We'll do this one. There we go. All right, now I know this does look pretty drastic, but this tree is going to totally explode with growth this summer, and it's going to do just great. All right, I'm going to put the cage back around this thing, maybe put a little more mulch down on the ground, and we'll call this one done and move on. This here is our Golden Delicious. This one is not a dwarf tree. This is a full-size tree, but I want to basically dwarf it by pruning. And as you can see up here on the top, again, we have a whole bunch going on in the middle, very, very straight, really growing aggressively vertically, so I definitely have to get rid of some of this straight stuff in the middle and get a nice open center like we just did with the previous tree. Okay, now the next thing I'm going to do is much like the last tree. I'm going to take off anything that's aiming towards the middle first off. These will all just cross over each other anyways, which is something we do not want. There we go. Okay, now we do have 4 branches, which isn't too bad. It's kind of basically the shape that we're looking for here. But I do want to encourage, again, for this thing to move out another tier to the outside. So I'm going to cut right above this bud right here. Try and direct some energy that way. This little bud right here doesn't look bad. It's kind of pointing over this way, so that would probably be a good place to cut this one off. All right, as I look at this little branch right here, I'm going to nip it right here. Try and get it to direct its energy out this way. This one's kind of coming in towards the center. We'll get rid of that. All right, this branch here, I'm tempted to direct all the energy out this one that's right here because it's facing in a fairly good direction. Yeah, I think that's what we'll do. I'm going to get this one to use this as the next runner for next year. And then here's another outward facing bud right there. So we'll cut that off. And there we go. All right, and as I said in the beginning of the video, I went through about 2 weeks ago and did this, so let's take a look at the trees now and see how they're responding to all this pruning. All right, pardon for the cage, but I always have to keep the deer off, but here's one of my headed cuts, and you can see it is budding out in exactly the direction I wanted. Over here, right at the very tip, again, it's budding out and coming out towards me. And once more over on this guy. Budded out and shooting in the outward direction. So that's looking really good. All right, now take a look at this Golden Delicious now. This thing has really exploded in growth. It's really, really happy. And I do have buds poking out in just about all of the spots that I expected. Right at the tips of all my leaves. all heading in an outward direction, away from the center of the tree, just as hoped. All right, as you can see, I've got lots of new growth. The trees look pretty happy, and just goes to show you don't have to be too afraid of pruning things. You do want to obviously think through where your cuts are to get them to outward-facing buds and things, so you can direct the growth. But don't be too afraid to pick up the pruners. All right, hope this helped. See you guys soon. Trees are responding quite quickly. They're all looking happy, and there's a lot of vigorous growth. All right, as you can see, the trees are responding quite well. Got a lot of nice new vigorous